Please welcome Richard Levick.
Thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. When the ABA asked me to come and speak today, I was a little surprised that they wanted me to talk about emotions, but they insisted that you guys wanted to talk about feelings. So I'm going to ask you, tell me, how are you feeling right now? How? Outstanding. Now tell me, how are you feeling on a day-to-day basis? You've got allegedly 8,000 protesters who are going to be outside the next couple hours. We've got the SEC and the European Commission who are trying to outbid each other in terms of who can make the highest profiles. Some of your spouses last night were at dinner and they were accosted by protesters. You have gone from being heroes, from being the people in the community that we all counted on for our loans, for our small businesses, for our homes, to now being people without a country. You are now being positioned as the villains. How does that feel? Tell me how that feels, because in every crisis is a Shakespearean tragedy. We have two roles. There are only two roles. For those of us who skipped English class that year when we were doing Shakespeare, we have two roles. We have the hero and we have the villain. It is the only one we have. Let me ask you a question. What is the most powerful country on earth? I always have to be careful when I ask this question. In Houston, they want to say Texas. That is not right. I will give you some hints. It is 201 square acres. It is an army of 700, and they are all equipped with ancient armaments. And they have 1 billion followers. The Vatican, of course. Welcome to my world. It is the world of perception. Perception trumps reality 100% of the time. What do we want to do? We want to argue the facts. Right? We want to argue the facts, and we lose on the facts because people are arguing emotions. Right now, the marketplace is arguing emotions. In Washington, we have a saying, when you're explaining, you're losing. How many of you are married who will admit it? When you get into an argument, how many of you succeeded by being able to explain the facts of why you forgot your anniversary? Does that work for any of you? Right? What do? We fix it. We fix the problem. There are three critical moments in crisis communications. There's Johnson & Johnson's Tylenol. Right? And what did they tell us from that? Run to the crisis. What is so famous about how Johnson & Johnson handled the Tylenol crisis? What did they say? Right? They are the ones who ran to the crisis. They pulled all their over-the-counter pain medications off the shelf before any federal regulatory body ever asked. And 3 decades later, they are still positioned as what? The company who cares, who puts customers in front of profit. What do all three of those actions have in common? They are not solutions, they are actions. In a crisis, Americans, stockholders, employees will forgive mistakes. They will not forgive inactions. Tell me, how many of you fly in an airplane? Okay, how about the service on airplanes? Do you remember when you used to put a tie on, a dress? I used to do both. I was so excited to be flying. And what has happened to the service now? So everything that we try to do with a brand is dictated by that relationship, and we are not using the tools that are available to us. How many of you are tracking YouTube right now? One person, and you're almost afraid to admit it. You are the only person in here. There are 500 people in this room. There is one person who is tracking YouTube. What I want you to do, I'm going to ask you to do something that you have not done since you were square dancing in 6th grade. I want you to look into the eyes of the person sitting next to you. Right? I know how much bankers like to do that. I want you to look into the eyes and keep staring into the eyes of the person next to you. And some of you are still looking at me. No, you got to look at the person next to you. Why? I can't do that. I can't possibly do that. PricewaterhouseCoopers, keep looking. PricewaterhouseCoopers announced a study last year that 49% of every major American company was facing bet the company crisis, litigation, recall, disaster over the previous 3 years. That number is only going to get worse. So look at the person next to you Look into their eyes. Don't look at me. Look into their eyes and say, it's either you or it's me.